Hey, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Hanging On to Hope podcast.
I'm Brenda J.
And I'm Karen Wonder.
And we are HangingOnToHope.org.
This podcast is intended as educational and is not psychological or medical advice. Always consult a professional when needed, and we disclaim any liability in connection with the instruction, information, or advice given.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hanging On to Hope podcast. This is Brenda J.
And this is Karen W.
We just got back from our trip to Europe. This was my bucket list trip that I've been waiting for, and due to COVID restrictions and then waiting for the perfect weather, it was a very, very long-awaited trip. So we made the most of it.
Yeah, it's been something I've been wanting to do for a long time, too, because I've worked in the airline industry for quite a while. And I've gone to Israel, but I've been wanting to go to Europe for years. And the last 9 months have been pretty stressful because I took a job with American Airlines and it really didn't turn out to be exactly what I wanted. And I actually do have a new job. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be starting a new job, which should be still with American, but it should be less stressful. But this was just like a reward for the last 9 months. And we went to 3 different countries with 2 different languages in 9 days. So the total trip was 11 days. 2 of those days was flying. And so first we went to London, England. And then I just loved that. I got to go up on the London Eye, which I always used to see on Doctor Who. So that felt really cool.
While she rode the London Eye, I checked out Big Ben and walked around the city, and it was just fascinating. It's just like you see in the movies, just all the hustle and bustle. We took a tour of London on a bicycle, jinrickshaw. I don't know if you've ever been on one of those, and we saw the city. They took us to Buckingham Palace and all the sights there, and we saw the guards.
Yeah, we saw the guards by Buckingham Palace, and then was it Kensington Palace?
We can't remember.
It all runs together.
Anyway, it was amazing. We stayed in Bankside. It was a short walk from the London Eye, which was amazing. Our hotels were really, really great. And then that evening, we went to the Covent Garden, and they had shows and restaurants and pubs. It was really, really fun.
Yeah, and free entertainment. We got a pizza. We were facing out onto this. They have street entertainers in that area on these cobblestone streets. And so while we're eating, we got to watch entertainers, and that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I haven't been any place like that. You walked in, you thought you were going into this little building, but it was just massive inside with just restaurant after restaurant and shows, and it was just huge inside. So London was very exciting. It was a very exciting place.
It felt surreal. Like, I can't believe we're here. We're in London. It just really felt amazing.
All the little cabs and very safe. Like, all the cities were very safe. Lots of police officers. And I was surprised about that too.
So the next day we took the Eurostar train from London to Paris, France. I didn't notice that it went under the water. Did it do that at the beginning?
Yeah, I think it just looked black. Like you couldn't see anything.
Oh.
It was when you couldn't see the outside. So somehow my train ticket was upgraded, and I walked through all the cars to find Karen so she could come into the better car. But unless you've never been on a train, I had no idea that my car was really nice or upgraded. I'm not even sure why. It was just...
Well, we didn't buy our tickets at the same time because I was having issues with my credit card. So I don't know how it happened, but I purchased mine quite a bit after yours. So I guess I got the economy cabin.
Yeah, they told us we couldn't walk through the cars, the people that work there. And then I get inside, they're like, yeah, you can. So it was just like in the movies. You walk through the cars, they're all connected, and it's really bouncy. So it's really hard to walk through them all. And then
I thought I was going to end up in someone's lap.
Like 7 cars up, there was like not a restaurant, but a bar that served food. And we missed it because we got up there a little late. But yeah.
No, darn.
So, yeah.
That was cool though.
Yeah, it was fun to take the train. And now I know that I had a nice car that I didn't know until I walked around through the train to realize that.
Yeah, so your cabin was definitely more upgraded than mine.
Yeah, it was definitely a blessing that was unexpected that the Lord did. So
yeah, that was great.
Yeah, God was protecting us and gave us favor in ways that we weren't expecting the entire trip.
So our hotel was next to the Eiffel Tower in Paris, which that blew my mind when we drove up and, the Eiffel Tower's like right there. And I'm like, wait, this is our hotel, like right next to the Eiffel Tower. That was amazing because that was just that's always just been this icon because, my parents, my sister was born in Germany and my parents used to always talk about going to the Eiffel Tower and because they, did a lot of sightseeing when they were living in Germany. And they always had this story about my sister was a baby and they went up on the Eiffel Tower and she cried all the way up the Eiffel Tower. And so it's just always been like this icon that I've always wanted to go on. So to be so close to it and then for us to go on it, that was amazing.
Yeah. And I've always had a really major fear of heights and I wouldn't go on the London Eye. That scared me way too much. But then we got to the Eiffel Tower and I'm like, I'm here. And I kind of was feeling a little bit guilty for not going on the London Eye, but I knew I couldn't. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And then we waited in line for so long and we were about to get on the first lift to go up. And I kind of started to panic. And I remembered all the podcasts that we've done and I just started to breathe deeply. And then the panic went away and it actually turned into one of the most exciting and victorious experiences I have ever had. There's just no words. It was just incredible, the experience. And I'm so glad that I did it. So
I'm so proud that you're able to overcome your fear and just enjoy it. Cause to go that far, I'm sure you would have regretted not being able to go up to the top. So I'm glad that you were able to do that because it was amazing. The views were amazing. So we stayed up on top for quite a while. I mean, we took a ton of pictures, video. We just, took in the views and, you can really stay up there as long as you want. They don't have a time limit, which is nice. So we just took our time and enjoyed the views.
How long did you think we were up at the top? I think a while. I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, I couldn't either. I mean, we waited so long, there's a line for everything. So once you get up there, I wasn't in any hurry and I don't know how long we were up there, but I just enjoyed it and took it in because I don't know when I'm going to be back to Paris again.
Yeah, I don't know. I will be either. And what's neat about the Eiffel Towers, there's all these different levels. And is it the first level that has restaurants and a food?
Yeah, level 2, which we didn't see until we went back down. I don't think they showed us that or if we just missed it. But when we came back down, that's when we saw there's all these restaurants and yeah, it's really cool. All these different restaurants you can stop and eat or you can just hang out,
Yeah, and that's not as high. So if you're a little scared, you can always just go up to that because that's not near as high.
Yeah, level 2 is
way higher.
High, all the way up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other, I don't even know how many levels there are. Is there 3? See, I thought there was 3. I thought the first one had the restaurants. Then we stopped on the second one and the lift went up the first 2 and then the elevator went straight up the middle to the lab. Now we need to look it up.
No, I don't know because I was thinking that too. I don't remember seeing the restaurants, but I don't know if we did go up another level.
Yeah, we skipped the first one. They said, we're not going to stop here. We're going to stop on 2. We forgot that there was even a first level because they never took it to us. They passed it in the lift. Yeah. So we stayed up there. In France, the manager upgraded our room because of a mistake the hotel made. So once again, we were unexpectedly blessed. That night, we had the best dinner of the entire trip in Paris. That was incredible. We posted some pictures of that. He brought the food out in about, was it 5 minutes? Not even.
It was less than that. I think it was like, wait, how can you? But of course, we got seafood and pasta, and that doesn't take very long to cook. But I was like, wow, how can it be ready that? And I loved our waiter. Like, it just seemed so. Everything just was so perfect with that meal. Like I liked the waiter because he seemed really authentic to Paris, and then, that was definitely the best meal that I had on the whole trip. Like I got what was it? I got salmon and linguine with pesto sauce and the wine was so good with it. And then we got these really lavish desserts.
Yeah. Mine was great too. That was the best meal I had too.
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of good meals, but that was definitely to me the highlight of all the meals, I thought.
Yeah. And the one consistent thing about all 3 countries was they had great coffee and it was very consistent. Like if you ordered a cappuccino, it was consistent in each country and I would order Americano and that part I loved. And they all had their pastries.
No, I loved all the pastries, the little croissants with the chocolate in the middle.
Yeah. The hardest part was the language barrier in France was the most drastic. So it was hard to get around.
Yeah. When we came in on the train, that was a little challenging. Being able to understand where our Uber driver was.
We rode in that little car around Paris and the guy got a flat tire and all he kept screaming was, America! Woo woo! Remember that?
Yeah. Yeah, that on video.
America! Woo woo! You get
Yeah,
in
we got to see the Louvre, but we didn't go into the Louvre. But it was neat because it's huge. Jacob went into it and he said he only saw like a tenth of it, but he did see Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with not seeing that because there's so many other things to see. Like I
Yeah,
can
the
see a
Eiffel
picture of
Tower
Mona
was
Lisa. Yeah,
definitely the top of the list. So
yeah, me neither.
yeah.
To me, the Eiffel Tower is number one on my list, and we accomplished that. So
Yeah. The next day we flew from Paris to Rome. It was a 2-hour flight and the driver from the hotel was waiting. He took us straight to the hotel in Rome and the hotel was behind 2 brown doors. And
yeah, it felt like Narnia. Like you opened up these brown doors, and it's like going up all these stairs, and then you're at your room.
he's like, there's your hotel. And we always see these brown doors and there's no sign. It doesn't look like a hotel.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah. So Rome is pretty cool. At that point, we were totally in awe because we had been in 3 different countries in the last 4 or 5 days.
Right.
We were just speechless. We were just trying to take it all in by the time we got to Rome. I'm still not sure if I processed it at all. So yeah, I mean, it was just incredible, all of it. And by the time we got to Rome, we were just speechless.
Yeah, it's just like what you see on TV. When you picture Europe, you always see those outside cafes with flowers. And that's exactly how it was with those cobblestone streets. And there were so many cafes that were so quaint looking and the food was so amazing. It was mind blowing to be in a place that you imagine all this time. And to finally be there was, beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah. So we stayed by Piazza Navona and the Pantheon. And that night, when we saw the Pantheon that first night, we were just so in awe already. And then we just see this ancient building in the middle of everything. It's just sitting there. Like you just walk past it and you just sit there in disbelief almost. It's just so incredible. Yeah. And the Pantheon, the Vatican, the Colosseum, the Trevi Fountain, we were near everything. Everything was within walking distance. And we stayed a total of 5 days in Rome. And then we flew from Rome to London on the 5th afternoon. So it was a busy trip, but it was just incredible. It was just incredible.
Yeah. And to be able to walk to all those places. I mean, we did a lot of walking, which was good because with the food we were eating, I think it counteracted that.
Yeah.
We definitely walked a lot. Like I remember we'd come back and it was exhausting because it was a lot of walking, but it also was great to be able to not have to worry about renting a car or taking a bus. I mean, that we could walk everywhere that we really wanted to go was quite amazing.
And the food was definitely not as healthy in Italy as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't expecting it to be healthy because I don't eat a lot of pasta normally or pizza. It's just I try to stay from carbs. So it was kind of like, well, I'm going to indulge. I'm in Italy. I'm not going to not eat that. So it felt really good even though our first few tries with pizza was like getting down exactly what we wanted. It was still really good. And just to be able to indulge in authentic Italian food.
So I'm going to ask you, Karen, what was your favorite city and why?
Yeah, I was thinking about that and it's hard because they were all so different. I mean, London, I like because that was my first impression. I'd never been to Europe. So just being in London was like my very first impression of it. And I loved it. They were all so different. And then Paris had its own unique feel with the Eiffel Tower. And I remember that we saw this couple that was kissing on the sidewalk when we were walking to breakfast. And I just love that because to me, Paris feels really romantic. And I took a picture of them. I thought that was just really cool. But to me, Paris had a real romantic kind of feel that I loved being there. And then, so I don't know. I mean, and I loved Rome too, because Rome was so amazing. All the sites, there was so much history, so much art and sculptures and statues. So it's hard to say which one's my favorite because I think I loved them all. I mean, I probably loved Rome and Paris a little bit more than London, but I loved London too, because it was, my first impression was just, I was awestruck. So it's hard to narrow it down to one. I loved them all. I'd like to go back to all 3 of them, but I would definitely like to explore more of Italy, like outside of Rome, like Tuscany and some of those more countryside places of Italy I'd like to see.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same way. I loved them all so much. I would say the Eiffel Tower and the Vatican was incredible. It was just so many people though. I mean, if it had been less people, it would have been a lot better, but it was just incredible. It took them 120 years to build it, and Rome's just cool. So
yeah, and seeing the Colosseum to me was, because Gladiator is one of my favorite movies, and when you walk up and see that structure, it's so recognizable because it's something that we used to watch Drive Through History, and he used to go over all the history of Rome, and so to me it was really awestruck to go into the Colosseum. And then we went on a tour. So we learned a lot of details. I mean, it struck me as being really ironic because it is a place that's known for really a lot of evil, a lot of
Yeah.
Christians and people were tortured there, and the audience that would be their entertainment. So at one point I thought it was interesting because it looked like influencers or, people that were all dressed up, and then they'd be taking these selfies in the Coliseum. And I thought, this is interesting because this is a place that's known for really what went on there was kind of dark, but it's just how life is these days. I really enjoyed the Coliseum tour, and our tour guide was so full of information. She had a little book that was showing us pictures of what it, looked like then. And so to envision it and to get all the details of what it was like, I thought was really great.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was.
So you waited so long to go, and you mentioned that it was important to help you get stronger to be able to have this trip go overseas. Can you expound a little bit on that?
Yeah. Before I went through like maybe 2-3 months of a really intense EMDR. I went before, but I was really, really ready for EMDR again. And it stirred up a lot of stuff. And I had been planning this trip to Europe for so long that I knew I wasn't changing it. Even my therapist was like, no, you're going. But it started stirring up things and kind of the devil was just trying to create fear in me. So right before I went, I started to get a little panicky. And then my therapist said to me, Brenda, God's going with you. When she said that, it just really made the truth click for once. I mean, I always knew God was with me, but the question is, do you actually believe it? And if you actually believe it, you step out in faith because you actually believe it. And so when she said that, I was like, oh, God's going with me. I don't know, it changed something.
Yeah.
And then right before the trip, we did Bob Hamp's podcast on codependency, and he talked about becoming an independent soul. And I realized this was that step in becoming an independent soul and being able to plan something and do it all without being dependent on a man or anything else, just part of moving on.
Right. It's very empowering.
Yeah, it was very empowering. So it was stirring that up. It created that fear. But how's it faith if I'm not willing to step out and be obedient and go on a trip that God was going on with me, where he was protecting me? The common theme of truth in my last EMDR sessions was that God is and was always protecting me in every situation. That was the truth. Everything that ever happened to me in my life. And this was a really big breakthrough for me because it broke once and for all the lies of the enemy, this trip. I know when I travel that I'm happy. So God helping me to plan so many different components of the trip, the hotel stays, rides, flights, the train, every detail. I'd never done anything like that before. My ex, he controlled all that. And so it made me see the truth that I am competent, and not only competent, but strong, free, and happy. To our listeners, your breakthrough can look completely different than mine did. Traveling might trigger you. Just ask God to show you and just step out in faith. Because if we live in fear and we don't step out in faith, then it's not faith.
Right.
Otherwise, it just means we don't really trust him. So Karen, you've waited so long and persevered through this job, and now you just landed a different position at work. How did this trip make you feel about all of that?
Well, it's like you said, it was definitely empowering, but I know the day we left, that was probably the most challenging day for me because I had a migraine, which I don't get that much anymore, but traveling with a migraine is not fun. And then getting there, and I flew standby. So the last minute, there was a lot of, okay, now you need to take this flight through LA. And we ended up not going on the same flight, and to have to rush to my gate and like, okay, it's boarding right now. And, all of that. And I had to get through security, and, I'm trying not to stress out because I didn't want my migraine to get any worse. But it definitely was something where I was just praying the whole time. So I'm like, okay, we planned this trip for a while now. I can't all in now. Like I can't not get on the flight. I mean, I knew if I didn't get on the flight, there's other options, but it definitely was challenging. That first day to me was the most challenging part of the trip. And I did make it on the flight because I got up there and they're already boarding. And thank goodness, I was able to get on that flight. And then, I had quite a layover in LA, and LA is a huge airport. So I was a little bit anxious about that, but I was able to navigate that fine. And then getting in and anticipating, okay, I'm going to be in this foreign country. I'm going to be by myself. I've got a migraine. I didn't sleep on the flight because I was having back spasms. I just couldn't get comfortable. And so that was definitely challenging. And I was definitely praying a lot during that time because it's a little overwhelming when we got into the London Heathrow airport and there's just so many people around. And I'd heard so much about be careful, there's people that take advantage. So I was trying to act like I knew where I was going and what I was doing, but I was looking around going, okay, where do I go? But I was trying not to look like a target, like a tourist, I was trying to go with the flow and look like I kind of knew what I was doing, and having to figure out how I was going to get to the hotel to meet up with you. I mean, that was a little challenging there, but God worked it all out. I ended up, I knew I paid probably more than I needed to. I just went with a taxi because it was right there. But I enjoyed it once I got in that taxi, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be there. And it took a little over an hour to get to the hotel. But once I got there, it just felt like such a load off, I got there. And then to me, the icing on the cake was after experiencing, all three countries and then being stressed out a little bit because the flights got really full on the return, which I kind of anticipated, and I had other options. But, that was a little nerve wracking too, because I thought, well, I don't want to be here for a day or two by myself and, in a country, and I didn't have like the right adapter. And I thought, what if my phone runs down? And there's just all those things that go through your mind. And then to get on the nonstop flight, which I wasn't sure if I was going to get on because it got really filled up. But thankfully, British Airways was having an issue, which actually was to my benefit. And then I got on the plane. And not only that, after I got in my seat and coach, the gate agent came up, and I thought, when she called my name, I thought, oh, now I'm going to have to get off, because sometimes that happens at standby, that a paying passenger shows up and you're off, Yeah. So when she called my name, I was like, I kind of didn't want to say anything. And then she's like, oh, we have a seat in business class. Did you want to upgrade? I just cried once I got up in business class, because to me, I wasn't anticipating that. I was just thankful to be on the flight, and it made me so thankful for the last 9 months, because they were stressful, and I didn't feel worthy to be up there. And I felt bad that you couldn't be up there with me. But she said there wasn't no other seats. I got the last one, but
well, you deserved it. And I was so proud of you when you showed up in London. I was like, because I was going with God, no matter what happened. I was like, I'm going to just go through every step of this trip alone then. And I knew it wasn't going to be as fun if I was alone. I'm like, this isn't going to be that fun, but I still got to do it.
Right.
And so when you showed up, it just made it that much better. I was like, oh, thank God.
It all worked out. It was a test of like, because I tend to be more of an anxious person. And it was just that test of, you just have to know what your backup plans are, and you just have to be willing to do that. And that's kind of hard going standby when you're in other countries. It's a little more challenging. Yeah. But it was just to me a test of like, just trust God, because I was praying that whole morning when we were on the flight back. So wonderful to actually get to sit there in business class and be like, wow, it was just kind of, you have little faith, Yeah. That's what it felt like. But
there were a lot of unexpected blessings on that trip with upgrades and things that I'm like, I didn't know this was a nice train. I looked at all the other trains. I'm like, oh, mine's pretty nice. Okay. Yeah. Little stuff like that. And then they upgraded our room and gave us we had a balcony view of the Eiffel Tower, but he gave us a better room. And then we come back and there was like a little Eiffel Tower chocolate and some champagne and like an apology from them. And it was just all these little things that were wonderful.
Nice. We didn't even get that whole Eiffel Tower eaten, but we had a bite of it anyway. Yeah. So what differences or similarities did you notice during your trip?
The one thing I noticed that I just realized today, somebody asked me a question. So when you try to throw garbage away, you can't find a garbage can. I thought that was
fine. I mean, you can find them, but they're not as obvious. I remember you were talking to someone on the flight from London. I think I don't know if he was from London or what, but you said something like that. And he goes, well, we just don't have any rubbish here. That's what he said. That was funny.
I thought that was interesting. But also the one similarity that I noticed is of the couples that I would talk to is that people are abused all over the world. When we tell them what we do, they're very, very grateful. And there was a couple on the flight next to me on the way home that she was in an abusive relationship and he helped her get out of it. And then they'd been together for about 5 years. But there were a couple other couples that I had spoken with as well, or people that had been abused. And it's just this common pattern because there are abusive people everywhere.
Right.
And country. So, and then I told some police officers what we did and they were just really, really grateful. And then we met that couple from Scotland and Argentina that one night. And you just realize everybody, also the similarities, everyone has problems. Everyone has their stuff. No matter what country you live in, no matter where you go, it's different everywhere, but sometimes the problems are the same. And so you just have to not judge and just listen.
Right.
And what about you? What did you notice that was any differences or similarities?
Remember, one thing that I noticed is that I can't remember. I know at least the two countries, they didn't have a sheet on the bed, and you brought your own sheet, but I didn't bring my own sheet. So I thought that was interesting that they just had like the big cover. So it was either all or nothing. So I ended up using a towel kind of since I didn't have a sheet. I thought there was one place that didn't, that had a sheet. I can't remember which, but
I think Rome had a sheet.
yeah. Yeah, maybe that's what it was. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting. Not sure why it is that way, but yeah, I mean, we're all humanity. We all suffer, even, no matter what your nationality is or where you live in the country, we all are. That's what makes us human, is we can relate that we all still suffer with many of the same similar things.
Yeah. And I was just telling Karen before we started the podcast that, I was looking through, we added another 3 countries of listeners since we've been back. And one of them was Argentina. Shout out to you guys if you're listening. One was Qatar, Qatar. And it is I barely could find it on the map because it's so small. And so, that's kind of near United Arab Emirates and some of those countries. And, we're just so grateful. We hope that the podcast is helping you. And then one was Korea. So
that's great. Well, maybe it's the couple that we met from Argentina that started listening.
I think they listened to 3. I mean, it will show you pinpoint the exact cities too, because we've had South Korea, but now, so there's a lot of abuse in these countries, just really amazing.
Yeah.
I don't even know how these people are. Yeah. I didn't even know they had access to it, but they obviously do. So we're just so grateful and just hope that we're helping them. So I'd love to do a lot of shout outs. We got a lot of Norway, but I don't want to leave any countries out. I'd feel bad if you're listening.
Yeah, that's really mind blowing to think that people are listening in other countries. But I mean, I just hope any and all support. I hope they feel encouraged, because that's definitely our goal.
Yeah. And the 3 countries we just went to, lots of cities all around the UK listen, and we got a big following in UK, and then also France. We have more downloads in France now that we went there, and Italy. So many countries in Europe, pretty much all of it. And then a lot of Africa, South Africa, Kenya. There's several. And now we have several in South America. Oh yeah. Today we just got the Dominican Republic. I guess I didn't mention that one. There's just a lot. We have Australia. We have a lot of listeners. So shout out to all you guys. Thank you so much for listening. New Zealand, Japan, Malaysia. I'm just going off the top of my head. I could look at all of them, but there's about 68 now. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it.
And of course, the United States, Canada, Mexico. I think we've had Costa Rica, Jamaica. I could just keep going.
Yeah, that's why we do what we do.
We are thankful for all of you guys, and we just hope and pray that you'll heal, whatever that looks like to you, that you'll become stronger, that you'll have higher self-esteem and self-love, that you'll become an independent soul and develop interdependent relationships where no one is controlling and everyone is free. We pray for physical healing and any damage from the abuse, emotional healing, spiritual healing, and soul healing, because He restores our soul. We pray for hope and healing and blessing over you, and that you be filled with the Holy Spirit so that it may lead and guide you in all things. And we pray for peace, that the years of being in fight or flight are no longer, that we will put our faith and trust in you, God, in Jesus' name.
Yes, I agree to all of that. Yeah, let me just add to what you're saying. I just too want to thank you all of our listeners, because it means a lot to us that anyone listens at all, because we just want to encourage anyone that's in an abusive relationship or has already left it, or even just a destructive relationship. We're so thankful that we can offer any kind of hope and healing. And we just want to encourage you to hang in there and to know that it is possible. It may feel like you're in a bad place or a dark place, but there is hope. And we just want you to know that to the deepest of your knowledge, even if you don't feel it right now, to know that that time is coming.
We just want to give a shout out to all you guys, and we appreciate you so much for listening to the podcast. Anyway, I don't know if we talked about that. We had a lot of fun too, but that's for another day.
I had a lot of fun. It was great.
Thanks for tuning in to Hanging On to Hope. Check out our website, hangingontohope.org. There are resources on there, and if you would like to donate or volunteer, you can do that through our website. We are a brand new nonprofit, so we appreciate any and all support. And we thank you for listening, and until next time, keep hanging on to hope. We are evidence that there is hope and healing for you, and our passion is to help you find it too. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for listening, everyone.